church planter can walk 20 miles in a day. Give him a bicycle and he can go 3 times as far and be 3 times as effective. It is so good to be back together one more time as we continue our chronological study through the entire New Testament. And we're working our way through Matthew's Gospel still, but as you know, if you're a regular watcher, we've been tempted to look in Mark, Luke, and John as well, because we're looking at the events that transpired after Jesus' resurrection, and there's so many different details you find in all the 4 Gospels that it's really tempting to look at all the other details and put it together as best we can. So that's what we've been doing. But we're going to start off in Matthew today, once again, and be true to our course. We're reading about the greatest story ever told. Today, we're going to look at the biggest lie that has ever been told, and it is a big one at that. So this is recorded in Matthew chapter 28, beginning in verse number 11. That being said, let's just set the context here. Jesus had just appeared now on Sunday morning to some women, and he told them to go to his brethren, and specifically to take word to my brethren, he said, to leave for Galilee, and there they will see me. And we know that they all did see Jesus before he appeared to them in Galilee. That was a subsequent appearance because he appeared to them that very evening. Why? I think because initially the disciples to whom these women reported, they didn't believe the report. And so they didn't believe Jesus had raised from the dead, and so they certainly didn't believe his instructions to go to Galilee. So Jesus said, okay, you're not going to go to Galilee. You're going to stay in Jerusalem. I'm going to come to you. And that's what he does. And we've read that story. So now we're starting off in Matthew 28 and verse number 11. Now, while they were on their way, some of the guard, those who had guarded Jesus' tomb, came into the city and reported to the chief priests all that had happened. And so, they had at least experienced this earthquake, the rolling away of the stone, the appearance of these angels, so that the guards became like dead men. We don't know the exact time that happened. There's no actual account of the actual moment of Christ's resurrection, not described to us. All right. So verse number 12. When they had assembled with the elders and consulted together, they gave a large sum of money to the soldiers. Now, why do they have to give them a large sum of money? Well, it's a bribe to, assure them that, or encourage them to keep their promise to remain quiet about what really happened. But here's the telling thing. These soldiers had absolutely no doubt that Jesus had risen from the dead. They knew the disciples did not come and roll away the stone in the nighttime and steal Jesus' body. That, didn't enter their mind. These were the guys who were lying on the ground, frozen for fear, like dead men because of what they had seen. And it wasn't just the hallucination of one guy, all of them had the same experience. We don't know how many of them there were. Okay, so they know it. Secondly, they were so persuaded by it, obviously they would have been persuaded, that they had no qualms about telling their story. They told their story to the elders and the chief priests there in Jerusalem. Okay? How could they possibly lie about it? They had all seen this incredible miracle. They knew that Jesus was risen. And were so convinced about it that it took a large sum of money, as a incentive to persuade them to keep quiet. We can imagine perhaps there was some negotiations, them saying, how could we possibly tell a story that his disciples came like you want us to tell this story and rolled away the stone while we were asleep? Come on, we know what we know. And so that being said, the chief priests and the elders really had no doubt that Jesus had risen from the dead. So I'm just trying to show you the depth of their depravity, how wicked and dark and evil their hearts were, knowing full well, beyond any shadow of a doubt, actually paying a large bribe to keep the truth quiet. See, if they weren't worried about the truth getting out, they wouldn't have paid the bribe. But trying to keep the truth from getting out, suppressing the truth in unrighteousness, to borrow a phrase from the book of Romans, that's the depth of their depravity. And of course, Matthew is writing here primarily to a Jewish audience, and so he's writing just for that very effect. That's why probably Matthew includes this story of the bribing of the Roman guards. You don't find it in any other gospel account. Okay, so we keep reading a little bit further here. And he said, this is verse number 13, "You are to say, his disciples came by night and stole him away while we were asleep. And if this should come to the governor's ears, we will win him over and keep you out of trouble." Now, a lot of people doubt that Jesus was raised from the dead. In fact, I would venture to say that if you surveyed the majority of people who go to church all around the world, or go to church on not just on Easter, but any time, and if you ask them if they believe that Jesus was resurrected, they would say, well, yes, that's just part of what we believe as Christians. But if they really did believe it, if they believed Jesus was alive, they would be supremely interested in finding out everything they could about this unique resurrected individual. Because that doesn't just happen every day, does it? You see, what I'm trying to say is lots of people say they believe theological facts about Jesus. They even say, I believe he died for my sins upon the cross. But this is so spectacular. If you say, I believe that Jesus was raised from the dead, then it would change your life, because you'd want to investigate everything you could possibly find out about this Jesus. And although to skeptics, the resurrection is maybe difficult to believe, I want to tell you that the alternative is much more difficult to believe. This lie that they told is unbelievable, and I'm going to tell you why. I'll see you next time.
HeavenWord 7 is made possible by the financial support of viewers like you. Thank you.